Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Melissa Rich. Welcome to the Taking Care of Your Temple podcast. This is episode 20. We are going to be talking about tapping or emotional freedom technique, which is something that I use a lot. So let me do the stuff that I always do at the beginning, the introductory. The objective, the purpose of this podcast is to help women connect with God regularly and do that by using his strength, power, grace, wisdom, all the things to help us really improve physical, spiritual, emotional, and mental well-being. We do this by using 4 different principles. The first one is to keep our focus on God. This sounds so simple. It is a daily struggle. Let me just say, a lot of times, many times a day, because we get distracted so easily. I feel like sometimes I have the attention span of a gnat. So I have to keep bringing myself back. Next is acknowledging that we are not enough on our own. We are not smart enough, strong enough, quick enough, attractive enough, whatever it is. We need God's help in order to get through life. The good news is that he is happy to give us that help if we ask him for it. He won't force it on us, but once we ask, he's happy to provide it. Next is remembering it is not about perfection. It is about progress. Thank goodness. If we all had to be perfect in order to please God, we would be in big trouble. I would be the first one. And the last one is to work consciously on changing our thoughts, because the messages that we give ourselves on a regular basis are hugely important. So we need to make sure that they are positive messages, that are affirming ones, that really are telling us God's truth about us, not the lies that sometimes we believe about ourselves. Okay, I want to start us off with a word of prayer. Lord, I want to thank you for this time together, and I ask your blessings on the people who are listening today. Please give me words that will help and encourage them. And I just ask that you will use this episode and other episodes to help people all across the world move forward in a really positive manner with their lives, and that our actions will be pleasing to you. Thank you for loving us, Lord. So this episode I am doing just by myself. Sometimes I have a co-host. Last time I had an awesome one. If you didn't catch that one, Water is Life with Ken Surratt, you need to. It's a really good one. This time it's just me. So I'm going to talk a little bit about EFT, or emotional freedom technique. This is a self-powering technique which has been proven to work about 4 times faster than the therapy industry standard, which is CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy. That's the one that is like the best. It's kind of the gold standard. And tapping works about 4 times better than that. And I think it actually may be quicker than that. The results are a lot of times seen in just 1 session. I experienced that, which I will share with you later. EFT, or tapping, is what is called a somatic body-based healing technique, and it helps you free yourself from negative thoughts and beliefs, which I love it for this podcast, because that's one of the things I'm trying to help people do. Tapping is a mind-body therapy, and it draws on the practice of acupuncture. It's used today as a self-help approach in things like counseling, psychology, therapy. It involves tapping key acupressure points, or acupoints, on the hands, face, and body with your fingertips. And while you're doing that, to focus on uncomfortable feelings or concerns, and using positive affirmations to neutralize those feelings. It sounds complicated. I promise you it's a very simple procedure. At the end of the session, I'm going to walk you through a quick tapping session on anxiety, because so many people have anxiety. I thought that would be a good one. It'll just be a few minutes long, and I will show you how to do it. It is a very, very effective technique, very easy to learn too. Okay, so research suggests that tapping can relieve stress. It can diminish food cravings, or other types of cravings like smoking or alcohol. It can improve performance across the board, and it can even help relieve symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. It's been used to help people with anxiety, with weight loss issues. I've had that one, with pain, insomnia, and a lot of other issues. So I trained in tapping, EFT, probably 20 to 25 years ago. I mean, really a long time. I won't tell you how old I was then. It was a good training seminar. Like, yeah, I've got it. Tapping. Okay. Tap, tap. Good. And then I promptly forgot all about it, never touched it for 25 years. Then a couple of years ago, I came across an old client of mine. We were kind of catching up. And he said, "Oh, and I've been meaning to contact you anyway, because I wanted to tell you that I finally was able to overcome my drinking problem, drinking alcohol." I said, "Great. How did you do that?" I knew that that was an issue for him. That's not what he was seeing me for. I think we were working on anxiety. But I said, "What'd you do?" Because it's a hard one to overcome. And he said, "I was in a group, and the leader of the group, taught us all how to do tapping. And that's what did it." And I thought, tapping? I forgot all about tapping. So I started researching back into it again, looking into it, and realized, oh my gosh, this is a really good tool. And at that point, I started using it on a regular basis. Well, shortly after that point, not immediately. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about how tapping came about. In the 1970s, three doctors, George Goodhart, John Diamond, and Roger Callahan, each discovered that when they were verbally focusing on a problem or issue, while they stimulated acupuncture points, their patients ended up feeling better, particularly if it was with regard to fears, phobias, or some type of physical response to stress. So Dr. Callahan kind of created this system called TFT, or thought field therapy, and he patented it. TFT was effective. It's still widely practiced today, but it's the way he put it together, it's involved and complicated. It really today pretty much is used mostly by therapists or people who have been willing to invest a lot of money into getting the training so they can use it themselves. So it's still around, just not that widely practiced. One of Callahan's students, named Gary Craig, was able to synthesize TFC into a much more simplified form. It involved fewer tapping points, and it was much simpler to learn and to practice. Craig was a Stanford-trained engineer and a master of NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming. He added key NLP concepts, and he ended up calling his program EFT, or Emotional Freedom Techniques. So EFT first appeared in the late 1990s on Craig's website, emofree.com, which is still there because I just looked. He made it available. He made EFT available to people through these low-cost videos. And since that time, it has spread kind of literally all over the world. And it's been modified here and there by different people. You know, things evolve as they grow. Today, a lot of people use EFT tapping to relieve everyday stress and anxiety, to improve performance, to reduce food cravings. It's also used in clinical settings by licensed practitioners to treat patients with PTSD, trauma, phobias, and a lot of other different types of mental or emotional health issues. I love tapping because it has a wide range of applications. You can do it, a lot of different things with it. It helps with a lot of different issues. My big thing that I love about it is completely natural. There's no chemicals. There's no medications. There's no type of invasive procedures involved. And because of that, there were no worries or concerns about, well, how is this going to interact with the other medications that I'm already taking or the other procedures I'm doing? There is no worries. It's not going to interact adversely because there's no chemicals involved. It's a very simple, natural technique. So let's look at how EFT, or tapping, works in the body. It is similar to acupuncture because it uses these defined acupoints for the tapping. You don't just randomly tap anywhere. There are specific places on your body that we're tapping on during EFT. And a lady named Dr. Peta Stapleton, who is a registered clinical and health psychologist at Bond University in Queensland, Australia, has done a lot of research in tapping. And she has a lot of videos on YouTube, which I've watched some of them. She's very interesting to watch. I love the research that she does. My problem, I will just tell you right up front, it's hard to understand her because she has a very broad Australian accent. Now, I say I have trouble understanding her. People from Australia are probably fine, but I literally will find that I have to pause a video and rewind it a little bit because I'm like, wait, what did she say? But other than that, they're really good. So research shows that there is a physiological response to stimulating those particular acupoints. Again, they're not random sites in the body. When scientists looked at those acupoints under a microscope, what they discovered is that those particular spots have a really high density of nerve endings, of nerve fibers that control heat and cold, and a high concentration of white blood cells. So they have those particular things in those spots. And then some other research found that stimulating those acupoints produces a wide variety of brain chemicals. I mean, they just create those chemicals in our brain as we are tapping, including internal opioids, things that our bodies produce naturally. These are pain relieving chemicals, serotonin, which helps regulate sleep, mood, and memory. And I hope I pronounce this right, gamma aminobutyric acid. And this has a calming effect on our body. So when we are tapping on these particular things, our bodies are producing pain relieving chemicals. Serotonin, which helps regulate sleep, mood, and memory, and this gamma aminobutyric acid, which helps us calm down. So you can see, I mean, there is a real solid reason why we feel better after we tap. We are calming ourselves down. So standard EFT tapping typically incorporates 9 acupoints on the face, hands, and body. And I'm going to run through them. One is the eyebrow, where the eyebrows start right at the bridge of the nose. The other is the side of the eye, on that bone along the outside of either eye. Oh, and I do want to say, when you're tapping, you can tap with your right or your left hand. You can tap on your right or your left side, or both sides, however you want to do it. I have found that I tap with my right hand on my left side. If I try to tap, or no, sometimes it is on my right side. I tap with my right hand on whichever side is closest to me. When I try to tap with my left hand, it just feels awkward. I just don't do it very well. So you do whatever is comfortable to you. And sometimes, like if it's on the side of the eye, you can tap on both sides. Again, whatever works best for you. If you do this a lot, you kind of figure out what works best. So then the next point is under the eye, on the top of the cheekbones, just right under either eye, under your nose, the area between the nose and above the upper lip, the chin point, that crease between your bottom lip and your chin, collarbone point, about 2 inches below and to the side of where your collarbones meet, under your arm, on each side, about 4 inches under your armpits, and I tell women it's right about where your brow runs, top of your head, directly on the crown of your head, and then the karate chop. These are the outer edges of your hand on the opposite side of the hand from where your thumb is. So those are the 9 points. And again, we're going to do a tapping session in a little bit. And as I do it, I will tell you where to tap. So don't worry if you're just listening to this. So EFT involves stimulating those acupoints, and it also involves mental focus. It's not just the physical tapping, it's the mental part as well. One of the first steps in tapping is to identify a feeling or a situation that's bothering you, and then creating a statement that acknowledges that feeling or problem, followed by a phrase of acceptance. So a couple of examples would be, even though I'm overwhelmed with work, I deeply and completely accept myself. So the overwhelmed at work, that's the feeling or the situation that's bothering you. And then I deeply and completely accept myself, that is the phrase of acceptance. Another one would be, even though I'm mad at myself for eating too much at dinner, I totally and completely love myself. So you acknowledge the problem, but you also say that you are a good person. Phrase of acceptance. So this kind of statement is known as a setup statement. It lays the groundwork for what's called the disconfirming experience. What that means is that it helps us see our issue for what it really is, not for the way we emotionally react to it. We usually respond emotionally to situations on an automatic or unthinking basis. And really, it's not the situations that we're in that cause problems. It is our response or our reaction to those situations. So if we can change that, then things become just better across the board. The basic technique requires you to focus on the negative emotion at hand, a fear or anxiety, a bad memory, an unresolved problem, or anything that's bothering you. While you are focusing, mental focus is on that issue, you use your fingertips to tap on the acupoints 5, 6, 7 times on each point. Tapping, while concentrating on accepting and resolving the negative emotion, accesses your body's energy and helps restore it to a more balanced state so that you're not just totally freaking out and totally stressed, and you're just calmer, more relaxed. Tapping these acupoints while making the statements provides a soothing signal to the brain that helps rapidly calm your body's stress response to whatever that traumatic memory or situation was. So even though the situation hasn't changed, you're changing your response. Okay, EFT tapping helps us tune into the negative patterns that we form around those uncomfortable thoughts, feelings, or troubling memories. And by that, I mean, I'll give you an example. For years, my negative pattern that I did around troubling experiences or whatever, I ate. If I was stressed, if I was overwhelmed, if I was scared, I would eat. That was my negative coping pattern. And I was able to substitute that. We tap into the correct pressure points while bringing the thoughts or emotions into consciousness. And the aim is to find relief, relaxation, promote healing around the emotional and physical issues that are holding us back. So tapping gives you the power to heal yourself. It puts control over your destiny back in your hands. Now, not 100%, but at least enough that you can get yourself unstuck and start moving forward. EFT gives you the best of both worlds. I found this statement online and I love it. The best of both worlds for mind and body. It's like getting a massage during a psychotherapy session. What a great statement. Who wouldn't want to do that? I mean, yeah, that's great. In fact, it's EFT's ability to access the amygdala, which is the almond-shaped part of your brain that initiates that fight or flight response. That's what makes EFT or tapping so powerful. So think of your amygdala as your personal alarm system. When you experience trauma or fear, you're in a scary situation, the amygdala is triggered. Your body is flooded with cortisol, which is also known as the stress hormone. And this chain reaction, your stress response, significantly influences and sometimes even causes whatever it is that troubles you. It could be a disease, an injury, an emotion, or an external problem, maybe a friendship in a relationship. So when all that happens, again, your fight or flight is triggered. And what your brain is saying to you is run, smoke the cigarette, eat the cookie. And you're just totally stressed out. So it's estimated that about 10 million people worldwide have used tapping. Excuse me. And what is so exciting about this is how incredibly quickly it can alleviate issues like depression, anxiety, and insomnia, as well as severe PTSD. I'm going to give you an example about that in a minute, physical pain, and even illness. Studies show that by stimulating those parts of your body, those acupoints, you can drastically reduce or eliminate that distress that accompanies those problems that you face. And when you do that, a lot of times you can eliminate the problems. So if you are totally overwhelmed at work because you've just had a bunch of stuff dumped on you that you have to do, and your stress level is out the wazoo, you go out to your car or in the bathroom and do a quick tapping session. It can help you calm down enough that you can start thinking rationally and clearly. You can come up with a plan. You can handle the work better. So the problem either goes away or is significantly diminished, so that you've helped with you have controlled your reaction, and you've also positively affected the problem as well, because you're just feeling better. So tapping is simple and painless. It can be learned by anybody. Every client who comes into Waco Hypnosis Center, I teach them how to tap. Now, that's not to say that they all do it at all or as much as they should, but I do show them how to do it because I think it is an amazing tool. It can be learned by anyone, kids, adults, teenagers. I've taught all kinds of people how to tap. You can apply it to yourself whenever you want, wherever you are. It is quick and easy. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it. It's also effective. It's free. There's no financial cost for tapping. And again, it gives you the power to start healing yourself and to kind of put control back in your hands so you feel better. Okay. So again, lots of research on tapping going on all over the world. And I'm kind of a research nerd. I like that. So when I first started getting back into this, I was watching one done by Dr. Peter Stapleton, the one from Australia. I think it was her. I watched several of hers anyway. But this one that I watched was one that they were doing with people who had food cravings. These are all on YouTube. I just looked for videos of tapping or EFT. So they had these people who had food cravings think about the food that they were craving. Then they did an MRI scan of their brain. They showed the scan. The areas related to food cravings were just lit up like Christmas tree lights. You could see them. They pulled them out of the MRI machine. They did one tapping session on them, and they put them back in the machine and did another scan. They showed that one. Nothing was lit up. And I thought, I tend to be something of a skeptic. So I thought, I'm going to try that and see. At that time, I was going back and forth with the last 15 to 20 pounds that I wanted to lose, up and down. I would lose it. I would gain it back, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, okay, I'm going to find something that I crave and I'm going to try this myself. So at the time, one of the foods that I craved a lot was crackers and peanut butter. Don't judge. I would eat a lot of it. I mean, several times a week. I loved crackers and peanut butter. So this was now, gosh, a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago that I did this. I did one tapping session on overcoming a craving for crackers and peanut butter. I have not had crackers and peanut butter since that time. Haven't wanted it, haven't thought about it, haven't craved it. I've been totally fine without it. And what I find so interesting, I didn't tap it this way, but I have had peanut butter a few times. I'll have it like on a piece of bread. I have had crackers a few times if I'm having like a salad or soup, but I have not had peanut butter and crackers. So I'm here to tell you, this thing works. I promise it really, really does work. In a study published in the Journal of Nervous and Mental Disease, which is the oldest peer-reviewed psychology journal in the US, they found that the EFT or tapping lowered the major stress hormone cortisol significantly more than any other intervention that they used. Y'all, that is huge. Tapping worked better than anything else, significantly better. Cortisol was measured for the study because it's known as the stress hormone of the body. When stress goes up, our cortisol levels go up. This type of response was originally designed to help us survive life in the wild, the fight or flight syndrome. This was essential when our ancestors, say, were faced with a sudden, unexpected danger, like they came face to face with a tiger. Okay, fight or flight. With the tiger, I would probably choose flight because I don't think if I fought the tiger, I would win. So for that type of situation, it was very helpful. It was a survival technique. Not so much nowadays. Although it can be useful in short bursts, like, I don't know, if we're crossing the street and we suddenly see a car that doesn't see us and is coming really quickly. Yeah, it will help us really quickly to get out of the way. Nowadays, though, we don't have too many of those dangers, and we tend to release cortisol too frequently. We are kind of living in a state of ongoing or chronic stress in modern life. And so our cortisol levels tend to stay elevated. Instead of elevated, crisis is over, they come back down. For a lot of people, they just stay up there. And this can have serious impacts on our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. It really can. We go into fight or flight. We can't do anything about it. There's no tiger to kill, no wolf to run from. Punching out our boss or coworker is usually not a good idea. And just making a mad dash out of a business meeting can get us fired. So all that cortisol builds up inside us and has nowhere to go, and it just sits there. And it's making us sick in all areas of our lives. Living in this kind of biological survival mode may be making us more vulnerable to everything from cancer to heart disease and more. It's not a good thing, ladies. Not a good thing. Okay, so some studies have been done that found that the normal rate of cortisol decline is 14% over an hour. So what that means is if at the start of this hour, your cortisol was at 100, I have no idea how high it would go, but for the sake of argument, we'll say 100. At the end of an hour, by not doing anything, your cortisol will go down 14%. So instead of at 100, it would now be 86. That's normal, okay? In some studies that they did, they had 3 groups where the first group used tapping, and they had a 24% decrease in cortisol levels. So for them, if at the start of the hour they were at 100, at the end of the hour, they were now at 76 instead of 86. These second and third groups just showed the standard cortisol reduction that just happens with time passing. So the tapping group had a 10% improvement, and that is statistically significant. The EFT or tapping group also showed lower levels of psychological symptoms such as anxiety and depression. It did all of this without medication, without therapy, without any kind of chemicals. Y'all, that is huge. So psychotherapy by itself can relieve stress, but it does it over a long period of time. And the immediate effects of psychotherapy just don't always register with your body, where those excessive amounts of stress, the stress hormone cortisol, are still running rampant and putting your health at risk. I know this to be true because I was a family therapist for 28 plus years, did a lot of counseling with people with anxiety. And what I saw was that, anxiety isn't always that helpful, because people with anxiety tend to really not care why they're anxious. They just want to feel better. Therapy is great at helping you figure out your why. But if the why doesn't matter, it's not that helpful. That's one of the reasons that, I don't know how many years ago now, I switched from doing therapy to doing hypnosis, because I found that hypnosis worked better. Hypnosis is also amazing at relieving stress much more quickly and effectively than therapy, I think. I don't have that backed up by research the way this tapping is, but that's just my personal experience. Some study findings. What they found, one of the things they found, is that tapping balances activity between our sympathetic and our parasympathetic system. If you don't remember what those are, I will tell you, I had to look them up. The sympathetic system controls fight or flight responses. It gets your body ready for strenuous physical activity. The parasympathetic system regulates those rest and digest functions. It restores your body to a calm, composed state, and it prevents it from overworking. So what it produces is that balance, a neutral emotional state that is the gold standard of health and wellness. That's what people over thousands of years have been trying to achieve through meditation, prayer, yoga, and other mindful activities. Tapping helps you achieve that balance. EFT is very precise, quick, and very direct. It's a way of causing change in how we perceive emotional issues. And they found some really quick outcomes in a variety of settings. I'm just going to go through a few of these. Again, if you're interested, go to YouTube or just go to the web and do a search on studies on tapping or EFT. So one of the areas that they are doing a lot of research and application of tapping is in schools. I've seen videos where in classrooms, the kids are sitting there tapping themselves and just going through whatever it is they're telling themselves. They're doing this self-soothing exercise. And I think that's great. The focus in a lot of the schools is to help reduce the stress and anxiety in the classroom, to support the students and to help the teachers to enhance teaching and learning. I mean, you think about it from the student's perspective. If they come to school and they are overwhelmed with stress and anxiety because of things that are going on at home, they're not going to be able to focus and concentrate and learn very much. Tapping helps them calm that down. Also, they're using it to train teachers. And they found that it really is an effective tool for teachers to learn, to not only help calm their kids down so that they can learn, but to help the teachers themselves get to where they need to be and be more effective in what they're doing. Another area that they're doing a lot of application of tapping is working with military veterans. EFT tapping is being used widely to treat trauma with veterans. And after years of persistence and advocacy, EFT has been approved as generally safe by the U.S. Veterans Administration. That was a big thing. So I'm familiar with this as well. When I lived in Oklahoma, for years, I worked with military veterans. I would do PTSD assessments for them because if they received a diagnosis of PTSD, then they qualified for a higher amount of benefits. And my thinking was anyone who has been to war for this country, they deserve all the benefits they can get. So I had no problem doing that. However, I felt bad because I could assess them. I could tell them, yeah, you have PTSD, here's your score. But there was really nothing that would help them with that. So yeah, I was kind of helping them, but I wasn't helping them get better. Tapping can help with that. So I'm going to read you a letter about the EFT tapping from a military vet that really kind of summarizes this really well. It starts out, it worked for me and it can work for you. I lost 11 brothers on my first deployment alone. Their initials are tattooed on the inside of my left forearm in memorial. I will never forget them, but I will not let their loss cripple me emotionally for life either. If you are at all like me, your first thought, if you're even aware of EFT to begin with, is that this stuff is a bunch of BS. How the heck can tapping on your face and hands relieve PTSD? But I was wrong and found this program to be far more effective and less emotionally invasive, which is true, than anything else I've tried for combating PTSD. When I got out of the Army and moved back to Oregon in late 2010, I planned to take some time to clear my head. I wanted to avoid responsibility, and I sure as heck didn't want anyone telling me what to do. I was just glad to be free of the overly structured military life. 6 months later, I could barely leave the house. Nearly all of my personal relationships were strained or worse, and I had almost zero interest in anything but wallowing in my own self-pity. At the urging of my family, I finally sought treatment at the VA in the spring of 2011. I started a 6-month traditional PTSD therapy program at the Vancouver Outpatient Clinic, part of the Portland VA Medical Center system. To track my progress, my therapist had me complete a PTSD checklist military PCLM at the start of every other session. The PCLM asks a veteran to rate the severity or prevalence of 17 different PTSD symptoms. A score of 50 or higher is the field's accepted cutoff for a veteran having PTSD. My first PCLM score was in the mid-70s. When I finished the VA program in the fall of 2011, I was in the low 40s, below the threshold. Outstanding improvement, to be sure, but it didn't stick. Within a few months, many of the symptoms had returned. My emotional condition continued to deteriorate through 2012. I had dismissed Viking Vet's emails about EFT for months, immediately deleting each without even a cursory glance. Around Thanksgiving 2012, I finally relented, again at the urging of my family, to set up an appointment. I decided to complete a 6-session, 1 per week or more spaced out if you prefer, treatment program. My EFT provider, like the VA, had me complete the PCLM prior to the first session and after the 3rd and 6th sessions as well. Also at the 90 and the 180 days after completing the program. Here's how I looked. Before session number 1, 54. While not considered extreme PTSD, it certainly is above the cutoff. After session 3, 35. This is only 2 weeks after the first session. After session 6, 27. This was half the score of when I started the program. But the progress is even more substantial considering my final score was only 10 points above the rock bottom minimum one can score on the PCLM. 90-day follow-up, 32. 180-day follow-up, 32. No change. I have not had a single nightmare or involuntary reaction, such as jumping out a loud noise or breathing hard when remembering a stressful experience in almost a year. While I will always remember the men who died and the moments when they did, my emotions no longer control me. And this was by Evan Hessel, former president of Viking Vets. He was in Iraq, November 06 to February 08, and in Afghanistan, May 09 to June 10th. And one of the things he talks about, and again, that I found too, a lot of people with anxiety or PTSD, another reason therapy is not effective is because they don't like to talk about it. And in therapy, you have to talk about the experience. You bring it up, you go into it again. With tapping, you don't have to do that. You also don't have to do that with hypnosis, by the way. You just focus on getting better. It kind of like helps rewire your brain, and it works amazingly well. So emotional pain and mental distress are substantially diminished using emotional freedom techniques. So a lot of different studies show pain diminishes an average of 68% with EFT tapping. Over 85% of vets who have participated have resolved most of their PTSD symptoms. 85%, y'all, that is phenomenal. And those symptoms that they've resolved have been insomnia, anger, grief, hypervigilance in 6 one-hour sessions. 3 and 6 months follow-ups confirm that the benefits are lasting. This is amazing. Okay, so that's military vets. Another area is tapping for cancer, stress, and trauma. There is a Dr. Deborah Miller who is using tapping at a children's hospital in Oaxaca, Mexico, to help the children and their families deal with the stress and trauma associated with cancer and with just being in a hospital setting, and has gotten amazing results. Okay, so I am now going to go through a tapping session with y'all. And if you are driving, just pause it here until you are at a place where you can do this. If you want to participate, don't try to do this while driving. If you're at work, you're probably going to need to pause it too, and then just go through this part later on. And I will tell you where to tap. And remember, you can use your right or your left hand. You can tap on right or left side of your body, or both. Like if it's the side of your eyes, do whatever feels best to you. I'm going to tell you where to tap. I'm going to be tapping myself on that place. I will tell you something to say, and you need to repeat that after me, either to yourself or out loud, whatever is most comfortable to you. Okay, and again, this is for anxiety because anxiety is so rampant. All right, we're going to start on the hand on what is called the karate point, the karate chop. I'll put this up so people can see it. Even though I feel so much anxiety about everything that is going on, I choose to relax and feel safe now. Even though things feel overwhelming, I choose to relax and feel safe now. Even though I'm holding so much stress in my body, it's safe to let it go now. Eyebrow. There is so much going on, and that's okay. Side of the eye. It's safe to feel this anxiety. Under your eye. And it's safe to begin to let it go. Under your nose. It's safe to feel this anxiety. Chin. It's okay to feel this anxiety. Collarbone. It's safe to feel all the stress. Under your arm. It's safe to feel overwhelmed. top of head, and it's safe to let it go. Back to the eyebrow. It's safe to breathe deeply. Side of the eye. I acknowledge all my stress. Under the eye. And I begin to feel safe in my body. Under the nose. The more I relax, chin, the more my body heals. Collarbone. The more I relax, under the arm, the more my body heals. Top of head, letting go now. Back to the eyebrow. I feel calm and confident. Side of the eye. The anxiety is leaving my body. Under the eye. I am experiencing peace right now. Under the nose. I feel happy and peaceful now. Chin. I'm doing great right now. Collarbone. I'm great without anxiety or worry in my life. Under the arm. I choose to feel safe no matter what is going on. Top of head. I choose to feel safe, calm, and relaxed. Okay, you can stop tapping. All right, that was a quick tapping session to give you an idea of what it is and how it works. Now, the app that I talked about is called the Tapping Solution. I think I talked about it 2 or 3 episodes ago a little bit. I use tapping every day, y'all, every day. I use some at night, usually to help me relax before I go to sleep. I use it during the day, like if I have a lot of writing to do, I use it for focus and concentration or productivity. There's just tons of applications. So it's a great app. I highly recommend it. And there also are, as I said, a lot of videos on YouTube that you can use to tap. And of course, those are free. Okay. All of this information you can find in the Facebook Taking Care of Your Temple group. It will be in there under episode 20. All right. Now, fun fact about Waco. This is pretty cool. I did not know this. On April 8th, 2024, North America will be treated to one of the most amazing sights of a lifetime, which is a total solar eclipse. And Waco, Texas will be right in the path of the eclipse. And it will offer an amazing show that you will not want to miss. So set your calendars. There will be, I'm sure, all kinds of events and festivities going on. The totality, where it's completely dark, will last 4 minutes and 13 seconds. So pretty cool. I've got it actually in my calendar already. And I'm sure as we get closer to it, there will be more. But when I looked at the trajectory of where you will be able to see the eclipse, Waco is right in the middle. So I'm hoping it will not be cloudy, that we'll be able to see it really well. But I'm excited about that. So I thought that was cool. Okay. So along with this podcast and with me owning Waco Hypnosis Center, I am available for public speaking for different groups and events. If you would like to have me for something like that, you can contact me through my website at www.drmelissarich.com, or you can email me at info@drmelissarich.com. Now, if you enjoyed this podcast, and I hope that you did, you can do a couple of things that would really help me out. One is you could give me a review. 5-star would be fabulous if it was helpful. Next is you could follow the podcast. And the next is that you could share it, like on your Facebook page or whatever. If you found an episode that was really helpful to you, you can post a link to it, and let other people know about it. I'm really working on building up my audience. I can do the podcast part itself, the writing and the recording really well. But to be perfectly honest, the social media promoting part is really not my strong suit. I know some of you can do this in your sleep. So if you would like to help me out, that would be amazing. All right. I hope this session on tapping was helpful, and you guys have a blessed day. And I will be back here again next week with another episode of Taking Care of Your Temple. This is Dr. Melissa Rich. Bye, everyone.